Hello, 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 and thanks for signing up for this very special presentation on Discover the 5 Love Languages in Real Estate. Create client loyalty for life. I'm your host and presenter, Lisa Puerto, active licensed California real estate professional, founder of Ready Set Real Estate, and many other cool things that you probably have already checked out. If you haven't had a chance to learn more about me, please check out my site at lasuperagent.com, and you can connect with me on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at LA Super Agent. And so, full disclaimer, this is going to be a presentation that includes a little bit of personal development, some work on your part to get to know a little bit more of yourself, how you're showing up in the world, and how you are relating to the people in your world. I am so happy that this is a space and a place where I've been able to combine my psychology background, my finance background, and my real estate career all in one. So this presentation will introduce you to real estate sales, or sales in general, because for the most part, we're always selling something, regardless of what career path we've chosen. We're always in negotiation and always influencing other people. So sales and psychology marketing. Why do people choose certain products and services when they are presented with certain options? And third but not least, client relationships, which I like to also say in the form of client retention. All right, so make sure you've got pen, paper handy, take some great notes, and remember, you do have an opportunity to reach out to me via email with any questions or comments, and I welcome your feedback. Let's begin. You may say to me, well, what's love got to do with it? Right? You may say, well, hey, Lisa, I just want to talk about sales. And to that I answer, well, let's actually ask the bigger question. If you are talking about real estate sales, aren't most people dealing with one of the largest investments in their life? And you are asking them to part ways with money that they have saved over time. And in order to do that, we've got to understand that people are in relationship with their money, particularly their finances, and of course they fall in love with the home. Isn't that what we're always marketing to them? Fall in love with the home. I've got a great home for you to fall in love with. Or we say it in another way, right? I've got a great product for you. I've got this next best book, or this next best car, or the top of the line, electronics, or you get it, right? People are in relationship with things, the material things. And yes, that has to do with love, because it is our innate nature to feel it and connect with the people, places, and things in our world. I want to introduce to you, if you are not familiar with the DISC personality test, well, hello. Hello, mama or papa, right? This is one of the best and by far a great shortcut. It's a mental shortcut, because let me share this with you. The brain creates stereotypes. Why? Because it has so much to process in a very short period of time. And I'm so proud of myself right now because I refrained from saying that the brain is lazy. No, the brain is not lazy. That is not why it creates stereotypes. It creates stereotypes to quickly access information when we meet people or come in contact with certain individuals. And so learning personality types is a great way for you to reprogram your mind or your brain from stereotyping people based on maybe things you've heard or maybe past experiences. And sometimes that can be traumatic and you can have some triggers. And I implore you, please use the link in this presentation and in your email as a reference to get to know yourself better. So I've asked some people in the past, based on what we see here. So the DISC personality tests that there are 4 types of personality, and we are a combination of all 4, meaning we have high numbers or high levels of a certain personality type and a lower level of the other mix. Beginning with D for dominance. This person is a results-oriented person. They're the driver and they are competitive. And then there's the influencing personality. They're persuasive, inspiring, enthusiastic. And then we go down to the stabilizing personality. They're amiable, democratic, patient, and of course, last but not least, we have the cautious personality, who's analytical, detail-oriented, and even systematic. Now, here's what I want to point out is that if you'll notice, from top to bottom, you'll have the group that's outgoing. This is your dominance and your influencing personality types. They're the outgoing energies. And then down at the bottom, head down south, you'll see your more reserved personality types with people who are more cautious and stabilizing. And then if you take this pie and split it in half and notice on the right side where you have the influencing personality types up here and you have the stabilizing down here, which make up the people-oriented energies. So these people are more sociable. They're okay with being connected with people. These are your sales types. And then if we come around on this side, where we have a combination of the dominance and the cautious personality, these people are task-oriented. So you notice with this pie here, we start from outgoing to people-oriented, a lot more reserved, and task-oriented. Now, with that being said, I want you to take a moment and you can pause right here and we'll jump into the next slide as you take your own DISC personality test and get to know you a little bit better. Why? Because then you'll know how you're showing up in the world. And I like to say, what we do in business cannot be a one-size-fits-all. Why? Because we wear professional hats, meaning we serve various types of people and organizations. And so it's important that we are self-aware of how we are coming off, showing up, and resonating with a certain type of personality. All right, go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll ask you this question. I'd love to hear, what is your guess of my personality type? I'm a high something, and I'm a low something. Can you guess which one that would be? Okay, now that you've had a chance to check out your personality type, it's important that you know how you are showing up. Now, I did ask you, how do I come off in the world? Well, I'm a high I. I'm persuasive, influencing, a lot of energy, enthusiastic, and of course, I do well in sales. Go figure. So for me, that works well with what I'm doing in my career path and the energies that I naturally have. Okay, now you may have heard this phenomenon called the 5 love languages. Well, that's attributed to Dr. Gary Chapman, who's a Christian author who wrote this amazing and wonderful book called The 5 Love Languages so that people understood how to relate to their spouse or in their relationships, because people oftentimes are communicating to each other, but they're not communicating in the same language. And this reminds me, if you aren't familiar with my personal development segment of my show, we do a daily called Shift Your Thinking, and I am constantly reminding my audience that we are in relationship with everything. People, places, things, our spouse, coworker, friends, children, parents. Some are spirituality, some are religion, and that varies. So it's important to understand, and I like to say understand, your inner world so you know more of what's happening in your outer world. Okay, so in real estate, I'd like to say that, are we paying attention to how to speak our clients' real estate love languages? Aha! Yes, there is a difference in how everyone else speaks and how clients are speaking to us as it relates to what we do in our real estate business. Now let's take the categories and I'll show you how in each category, each client personality type in how they are communicating with their love languages for you to understand what best approach you should be using. Why? To nurture a client relationship for life. And I've used this, and you'll see my case study towards the end. I'll give you an example. I have many, but for the sake of time and example, I just use one, which is one of my favorites because of the client type and how I was able to win him over for life. So let's begin with affirmations. Now, the affirmation person or client value words of encouragement and and values active listeners. So the affirmation works for this client who appreciates things like motivational quotes, inspirationals, newsletters. It's okay to send this client cards and texts and notes. And I say this because in real estate, we tend to make the mistake of what? First thing we do is we add everyone to our mass newsletter. Now you must be careful with this. Why? Because if you have a client that is communicating to you in a different real estate love language, such as service, gifts, quality time, or even physical touch, and we'll touch on physical touch towards the end, because I'm sure you may be thinking, touch my clients, since when? We'll get there. Just a sec. So if you are approaching a client that values affirmations, or maybe a client that doesn't value affirmations and you put them out on a newsletter, you potentially could be creating an adverse effect or a negative association with you because they simply don't communicate in newsletters. I'm a person that I value affirmations. Affirmations for me works. I'm huge on words, encouragement, and I absolutely love active listeners. Active listeners actually can bring me to tears sometimes because I value being heard. So I don't mind if somebody sends me a handwritten card or text messages, which oftentimes I'm communicating in text messages. It's okay to add me to your newsletter because I'm going to read it. I like to stay abreast on news and information. And of course, I mentioned I have my own Shift Your Thinking show where I'm actually covering various books. One, I covered Dean Del Sesto's Shift Your Thinking. And then the latest, I've been covering Wayne Dyer's 101 Ways to Transform Your Life. So motivational quotes, inspirationals, etc. works for me. If I were a client, I would appreciate that kind of love language coming from my real estate professional. And again, not just exclusive to your real estate agent or your lender, your escrow person. This is for anyone in the industry and honestly, anyone in sales, because we should be paying attention to how our clients like to connect. And I oftentimes find myself reminding industry colleagues, you get paid to remember this information, just like it's the coach's duty to remember the player's diet, their girlfriend's name, maybe all of their girlfriend's name, their wife's anniversary and birthday, children's names, birthday, favorite food, sport, activity. It's the coach's duty. And oftentimes if you have a personal coach or professional coach, they know these things about you because it is their duty and their business to know how to communicate to you based on your love language. And you may not have realized that you have a love language in real estate, just like your clients do. Okay, moving on. Service. Now this person is a person that values help and support. They are the we equals team type. I love these people. We equals team. And I have various examples of the we equals team client, which is oftentimes we take that on as real estate professionals when we are consulting, and then we get under contract with a client, and now we're in escrow, right? We have loan docs. We now have successfully negotiated repairs. We have the appraisal report available. We are ready for a recording. We funded. It's a team effort. So be mindful that if you have a client that appreciates and values the help and support, then that language is going to really stick out. And how you speak to this person's heart and connect with them and convert them in real estate, very simple. Offer help. For example, packing for them, helping this client to pack. Take a half day and invite, offer yourself up for service. Or if they need to paint their home and that schedule's tight, funds are tight, especially if they're just closed on the purchase, or if they're preparing it to sell on the market. Come up with a paint party. We always hear, well, let's just do a paint party. Invite some friends and offer help. Or perhaps even offer staging, helping your client prepare their home in the best light, in the best presentation possible. Or even something as scanning a document or even faxing a statement. And I listed this because I experienced this with a client who absolutely valued that. Was the smallest gesture to me, but it meant the world to her. Why? Because she had no clue of how to access her retirement funds. So for those of you who work with clients who have their down payment and their closing costs sourced in a pension account, albeit a 401k, 403b, some type of Roth or traditional IRA, depending what the investment vehicle is, there's usually a third-party service. We call it third-party administrator attached to that if they work for a company. And we say, in short, the TPA has instructions on how to access that money. Now, mind you, the client may have not ever accessed that money before. They may only know that the money's there. It's being drawn from their paycheck every week or every month. And so they know they have it available to them, but they may not understand actually how to access that. And that was the case with this particular client. She did not know how to access the money. And what I offered was to do a conference call with her and the TPA and initiate the process of drawing on the money so that she can successfully close on her first home purchase. And in that process, I said, let's log in online on my computer. We'll print the documents. We'll complete it together. We'll verify with your TPA any additional information they need, which oftentimes they want a copy of the purchase contract, and they want the escrow information and any escrow instructions in terms of wiring the funds. And that's even specific. You've got to make sure you communicate with your client whether they're comfortable with the funds being wired or receiving a cashier's check for such amount that they're drawing from. And then we completed together, and I faxed the statement, and it meant the world to her because she was extremely nervous. Of course, nobody wants to mess up. They know that the money has to be in escrow by a certain timeline. And so she knew in terms of the responsibility, but not knowing how to do it, it absolutely meant the world for her. And just like that, I created a client for life. Now, moving along to a client who values gifts. I appreciate gifts, but it's not my love language. I definitely appreciate gifts, but I'm a affirmation person and I'm a quality time physical touch person. Of course, this is not to say that we don't value any of these, but just like our personalities, we'll have certain high levels that show up more or we value more as opposed to some of the other options. For a client who values gifts and their language is small gestures and thoughtfulness, and it's oftentimes not the value of the gift, not the price or how much you paid for it. And you know, in our industry, we do have a cap to a certain amount and stay within that. That way you're compliant and you're not dinged, by anything. And so in real estate, a client who values gifts is actually going to appreciate you even more when you're gifting small and special gifts. For example, baskets, gift baskets, or sheet sets. And yes, sheet sets. I do have a great resource that can offer customized sheet sets with your logo. And imagine that, offering that as a gift to your client. Cutlery we know is popular. Flowers definitely is popular. And I'll give you an example of my client. I used Snooki's cookies for a client that I knew valued gifts. And this is how I knew my client valued gift. This is all about paying attention during your consultation. It's the simple things and the small things when you are listening. Again, you are listening to how to communicate to your client, and oftentimes they will let you know right in the beginning what it is they value and how they want to be communicated to in real estate. When I consulted with this particular client, they were a husband and wife couple. And as we were talking about this, the do's and don'ts as they are preparing to purchase their first home, one of the things we talked about was saving, right? Don't quit your job, save your money, no new accounts, no new credit accounts, etc. And when I shared the do's and don'ts, her husband said to her, well, that might be tough for her. As she kind of had this look on her face like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you've got to, ease up on your shopping. And I said, oh, you like to shop? She said, I love bags and shoes. And she did. She had a designer bag. Although she was coming from work, she had a designer bag. And he mentioned about, not having enough closet space because she has tons of items, gifts, and things that, of course, that's what she values. So once we closed, and it was so perfect because we closed actually the week of her birthday. So I utilized a service called Snooki's Cookies here in Southern California, where they deliver a giant 5-foot hot air balloon with fresh baked muffins and cookies, a variety of snack options, and a option of milk, either 2% reduced or whole milk. And they deliver that with a custom message wherever you'd like. And so once we closed and delivered keys, within a 24-hour period, it was a work week for her, and I had the gift basket of cookies and the giant hot air balloon delivered right to her job. Now, can you imagine, one, the impact that I had on her, right? Because she received this gift, this gesture. It was her birthday, so it was happy birthday and congratulations on closing on your first home. Wishing you all the best to you and your family, right? From me. And so in this example, this worked twofold, because now she was getting all this attention from her coworkers, and they're like, whoa, what's this? Who did this for you? And although I wasn't there, I got a text message picture of her standing next to her 5-foot hot air balloon, and she's all smiles, and she's like, oh my gosh, Lisa, this was amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Client for life. And since then, she's referred me she just completed her home anniversary, and she's referred about 6 clients already, and most coworkers, which is awesome, right? Ideal. That's what we aim for. And client for life. She doesn't hesitate. They opt to refer me to their faith-based members with the faith-based organization that they go to. And, they are absolutely gung-ho about sending me clients and being a client for life. And so I just want you to think about the things that you're doing may not appeal to all your clients, because that may not be their love language. Again, I appreciate gifts, but it's not necessarily my love language. So if someone sent me something or did something for me, I'd say, wonderful, thank you, and I express gratitude. But it's not going to quite hit me as if someone wrote me a poem or did a special spoken word presentation, which actually recently happened this past week. I was a guest on a show, and there was a spoken word dedication presented to me, which clearly just had me in tears, and I was boohooing, crying. And what do you think happened? My relationship, or how I viewed the host of the show, now went, 10x. I feel now more appreciated and valued as a friend and a partner in business with the host of that show that brought me on. Okay, so moving along, I trust this is kind of giving you some ideas to rethink how you're marketing, how you're communicating, and what you are communicating to certain clients. Again, shortcuts help you identify whether this client is a people person. Are they reserved? Are they outgoing? Or are they task oriented? Because once you understand their personality types, it'll allow you to be able to really identify, okay, where in this personality type does this person relate in terms of their love language, their real estate love language, or their sales love language, or their marketing love language, because that's what this approach is. It is a psychology marketing approach to how people are interpreting the world around them and how they're relating to the people in their world. That includes you and vice versa. Okay, quality time. I trust you're feeling good about this. And again, like I said, it's kind of sparking some ideas for you to start to create new filters in your database. And that's something we cover in our training. And for those of you who may have signed up for it or may have attended, do know that you received your love languages, your real estate love languages worksheet for your CRM system, so that you can properly categorize your client based on their real estate love language. I'm super excited about this because it's never been done in this way, and this is what makes this presentation very special, because it's a spin on taking a concept that initially was for husband, wife, spouse relationship, partner relationship, and we're applying to these very real things in love that we know people are valuing. They have a value system, and it's important that we are identifying that value system in our business so that we can create client loyalty for life. Yes, I'm going to keep saying it. Client loyalty for life. That's the job. Perpetuity. Long game. Know that everything we do as part of Ready, Set, Real Estate is part of the long game. We do long game approach here. Okay, moving along. Quality time. Now, this is a person or a client that values one-to-one time as most important. I really appreciate the QT person, is what I call them. The quality time person in real estate is would value you even more if you open up your schedule. For example, if you know a consultation, and this takes some time, right? Just kind of listening and understanding a new client, getting to know someone. And so if you know that when you meet this person, it oftentimes shows up this way. These are the people that when they call, they say, is this a good time? These are the people that when you meet with them, they say, how much time? How much time do you have? So they're either going to preface when they schedule the appointment, well, how much time will we block out? How much time do we need? So you determine that, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Now, let's say, for example, you schedule a time to meet with our QT client. And you say, well, this meeting should take us about 35 minutes. And so you meet with this client at let's say a local coffee shop for 35 minutes. And of course, if they're not pressed for time, pay attention that if this client is seeking to connect with you and they're a person that values time, they're going to value when you open up your schedule to give them more of your time. For example, 35-minute meeting, they may notice before you do that the time is running close. And at that time, that's a great opportunity for you to say, oh, you know what? I can open at 15 minutes. I can do that for you. What you did right there is create a client that's going to value you and appreciate you for life. Why? Because you've communicated to them that they are important and that time together is important, that you were willing to open up and offer more time to them. So there are different ways that you can show this to a client. For example, if during a showing appointment, you can stop for lunch. That's instead of, oh, I've got, we're going to show 3 houses and then I've got to go to my next appointment and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, that type of thing. That's not going to work for your quality time client. And honestly, I've seen clients who have experienced working with other agents and they felt it wasn't a good fit. That's oftentimes what comes up, is that they made me feel like a check. They made me feel like it was about the money. And here's what the client is actually communicating. They were not given the time, that one-to-one, because this is a person that values quality time. They don't mind how much money you make, as long as that you can value the time that they're giving you and that you can offer to them. And so you can stop for lunch, or like I said, give another 20 minutes of your time and let them know that you are giving extra time outside of what you normally scheduled, because that's when you're communicating clearly to them that, hey, you matter at this time. This time is for you. Got it? Good. All right. Okay. And our last love languages in real estate would be physical touch. Now, this is a person that values nonverbal and touch, nonverbal cues and touch. This is a person that reads body language and appreciates in real estate how you communicate to this person is by warm handshakes, shoulder touch, pat on the back, or lean into their personal space. And I've had this scenario in various ways, where when I'm next to men, by the way, as a woman, oftentimes it is best to stand side by side next to a man, a client that is a man, and not square up with them. That's not necessarily the best approach, because it tends to be confrontational. And notice when men communicate with each other, they're side by side. And so you want to be at an angle when you're communicating with a specific gender. Women, we're close, right? We're going to, we're going to be face to face and we're in each other's space. We're okay with that. Men, not so much. So it's important to be mindful of these even gender differentiating behaviors. And it's perfectly okay that when you meet this person and you know that they value warm handshakes, they oftentimes are going to hold your hand. And I've honestly had this happen on a couple occasions with a client who, just in discussion, we are just catching up. We're talking about what's happening next and the next steps in the transaction, and literally was doing that, holding hands. And because I knew that was that client's love language, I was not pressed to move my hand away or break away so suddenly. Where was I going? I was there for that meeting. I was there to discuss with my client. I've also had clients that appreciated hugs. And again, it depends with respect within the cultural boundaries. Okay. And I like to give that disclaimer. Just know that there exist cultural boundaries with certain communities and people. And some people are very welcoming. They're very embracing. They're very warm. And these people are communicating this type of language. And so they will value you even more because you are connecting with them. All right. Now, for those of you who may still feel a little iffy about all this, and you may say to me, you know what? Wait, I don't buy it. I'm not buying it. Physically touching a client, Lisa, get out of here. No one's doing that. Well, actually, it's not taboo as you would think. You know, I say, is it taboo or not? What do you think? And just in case you wanted to challenge me, of course, you know, I had to bring the data, right? So there's a study that was done by the UK that said gentle touches actually helps improve mental health and social inclusion. And this is so important in a time right now where we're seeing suicide rates increase between young boys between the age of 10 and 14. Now, do you hear me? Young boys between the ages of 10 to 14 have a rising suicide rate. And I think that has something to do with society feeling like, you know, man up and, we give you a pound or a fist pump or something like that, or a handshake or a high five, rather than actually embracing, hugging, holding, touching. And here's where I like to say my psych kicks in. My psychology background is a lot of what we crave as human beings is just innate being touched and being loved. We want to be appreciated. We want to know that we count, that we exist. And how is that? By touch. I'll give you an example that really sticks out to me, how social media is wanting to make sure we still have this physical touch. And it's in the form of digital, but it's in the way of Facebook groups. They're creating groups where people have connectivity over common experiences, common interests. And again, that's a way of physical touch. That's how are we touching together? How are we connecting? Well, it's usually based on a common interest. So if you're into lowriders and you join a Facebook group that's into lowriders, that is the physical touches that you guys are experiencing the lowriders together. Someone who likes outdoor hiking, right? You're part of a hiking Facebook group. Same thing. Or you're part of an arts and crafts group. Same thing. We're connecting by way of this physical experience that we're having, and we're connecting with each other. All right. So let's be reminded, we are in an era right now with the more, I would say, the internet is in its very young stages. And you may say, really? Yeah, right. Since 1995 till today, it's still in its infancy of what it's achieved and how much it's achieved. But let's not forget The AI that we see happening, artificial intelligence, is still trying to figure out this key thing that our brains are wired for. And what is that? That's touch. And so you'll see here that we're living in an age where people have forgotten the importance of physical touch. And I remind you, as you are relating to people in your business, albeit your clients, albeit your relationships with spouse, partner, friends, colleagues, parents, children, physical touch absolutely matters. And it's important to pay attention to how people are communicating to us. Prime example, presidents and babies. What language are you speaking is what I ask you. What language are you speaking? We've seen it since the beginning of time, this mass propaganda of associating presidents and babies. Why? Because this is about the physical touch. This is wiring the brain to say that this person is personable, this person's warm, this person's relatable, this person is tangible. We can access this person. This person is quote unquote for the people, right? Quote unquote for the community. And that's why physical touch is absolutely paramount. And you may be surprised which one of your clients values it more than any of the other languages that you may have been using in the past. Moving along to our case study. Okay, so I had a client who was a first-time buyer. He had a new family pit bull, yes, a dog, and because of this new family dog he had purchased, he was given a notice to vacate because the dog was considered dangerous and not allowed on the premises. He had 90 days. However, by the time I met him, he was already in he had 40 days left by the time I met him, which gave me from initial time of meeting to close 35 days where we successfully closed escrow. 35 days. Yes, it's possible. You just got to have a great team and everybody's got to work together. And that's what real estate is mainly about, is that can you work together? All right. So hold off on reading the message about what was happening in this text message, but I want to put you into the situation to where his love language was service. It was service. And once I identified that his language was service, meaning he valued the we equals team, we work together. And it was 4 days before closing escrow, he wanted to cancel. He was overly stressed and I could not understand what he was stressing about, but he was having a major meltdown. It was a meltdown / blow up. At times it looked like a tantrum to me, all happening within a 12 to 16 hour period. And once I timed out, I stepped away and then I gave him some time, to which I followed up with him the next day. And I said to him, talk to me, what's going on? I said, because there's honestly no reason to cancel. We're now I-72 hours away from you getting the keys to your new home. What's going on? And that's when he said to me, honestly, I've got to take, I got to take this other job up north. And he said, I won't be available to help my family move. And then, we've got X amount of days to move out. The landlord, he's kind of been giving me a hard time because I didn't pay the last month's rent. And so he was stressing over all these variables. Of course, he was the only one that was aware that he was carrying all those variables. And while, of course, I was managing the real estate transaction to make sure we got to the finish line, he had some other varying factors that was stressing him. So what I offered to do was, I said, take the job, go ahead. The lender and I coordinated the move and helping his family move. And I said, give me the contact to your property manager. I'll reach out to him and explain to him that you're on your way to closing. and we need, just 3 additional days and you'll be moved out. And what I did was I stepped in, communicated to the property manager. He had no problem. He said that the tenant, or my client, had been a really good tenant and had no problem. And so he said to me, as long as you can guarantee that he's out by this time, and if I was there for the walkthrough, that would be helpful. And so I made myself available for the walkthrough. We got the additional 3 days. My client's wife and kids were able to have a team of movers that we coordinated and helped them. And so he was able to take the project that he needed to take for work, and of course to continue to earn the additional money he needed for, of course, now being a new homeowner. And so as a result of that, him not knowing if it could be done, and of course, because this is a person that had always been carrying their own responsibilities and had been very independent, for someone to step up and say, I got you, we can do this together, let me help, that proved to be tremendous value to him. Why? Because I was speaking his real estate love language. And so this message here, as you can reference here, he says, I'll read it here, I believe you. Now, we were corresponding about a referral that he sent, and he's referred clients to me. And so I was giving him an update that we were going to take care of their client. Everything would work out. He says, I believe you. And like I told my boy, blank, he says, Lisa's a pit bull. She will make ish possible. And yes, there's a little doo-doo emoji. Lisa's a pit bull. She will make doo-doo possible. His mother is in happy thoughts, and they are really good people, and I hope everything's going to be okay. You enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for being available and aggressive. I want you to pay attention to that. Thanks for being available and aggressive. Now, based on his personality type, he was a D person. He was dominant, and he was task oriented. You give him to-do list. So he was a D and an S person. A D and a C person. He was a dominant, and he was cautious. And him being cautious because he had some he was what we call a justice challenged person, meaning he had experienced being incarcerated in the past, and so he's had his run of the mill type of thing experiences. So he placed, give him to-dos. He'll take care of it, but he was very dominant and very clear, and he's going to be cautious about checking me out. Even when we met, he checked me out before he introduced me to his wife. So even in the language that he's communicating here, this confirms the personality type based on what we know of the disc and his real estate love language. And he says, I will always send people your way. You're the best, and we are enjoying the house, and you will be getting the invite to our housewarming. And look at all those exclamation points. Now, I say to you, what would it take for you to have a client to feel this way about you? You think you'd be paying attention to their personality a bit closer and their real estate love language? Because the proof is in the pudding. Here we are communicating about a referral and more referrals. And he's already decided, I'm always sending people your way. You are the best. That is huge, at least for salespeople, right? Because it's easier to convert existing clients from, with referral business than building rapport with new clients. And strangers per se, and converting them. All right. Again, he was one of my favorite. Absolute. I appreciate and love all my clients, and I felt like this would be the perfect example for this presentation so that you can see how this is put into action. Now, last but not least, we want to talk about client retention and client relationships. The saying is, follow up and follow through is where the money is. And it's important that we identify ways to follow up when we are using the real estate love languages. And there are 6 CTAs to do that. And so they come in the form of sending a message, right? So you'll invite or ask your client in your marketing materials, albeit text, video, email, phone call, send a message. Send me a message. Or you'll say, learn more. If you have something educational, or if you're sending out a newsletter or you're creating a post, learn more. To learn more, invite them to learn more about what you're offering. Give them something to do. And then there's, of course, the sign up. If you do any workshops, I do lots of events, presentations, and workshops. So there's always an opportunity for a client to sign up or share this. I have clients that do this too as well. They hey, check her out, check this out, sign up. Or the watch now, right? When you're doing your videos, if you're someone who's posting on social media and you'd like to use your videos, do remember to use your CTA of, hey, watch now. Thanks for taking a quick moment to watch this video. You want them to watch now. And if after you do something like a video, a post, you send a text, or you have a website that you're sending people to, let them know, book now, book an appointment, schedule a consult. So keep it short and simple. Book now. Get the appointment. When you're asking for the business, we oftentimes forget to ask for the business, which is why people end up going to someone else. They say, oh, you never asked me. And this is getting you to the appointment and getting you closer to the close. And then last but not least, but my favorite, because of course, if you are an entrepreneur in this business, you should be thinking of multiple ways to monetize what you do. And for me, I have literacy of books, courses, merch, and so much more that I can offer my client base to experience more of me. So you give them that option to shop now. Shop now. So these are the top 6 CTAs that you should be using in your real estate love language as you're communicating with your client. So when you give them that opportunity, when you give them that gift, right? Give them something to do. Say, learn more. Hey, I've got this happening. Please share this, and I'd love for you to learn more. Send them a video link and say, check this out, watch this now. Or send them a message. Send me a message, text me. I'd like to use this. Keyword super agent, text super agent to, and then I use my phone number and I give them something in return. So I say, receive a copy of my free ebook not available on the market. Or receive, this free webinar. I'll send you the link to the free webinar. I come up with different ways to engage my clients and connect with them. Staying connected, staying on top of mind. And how do you do that? Is by using these CTAs. All right. Well, I trust that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. This for me has been a very special presentation to share with you, putting all my years of experience as a real estate professional and putting my degree together, my love of people, my love of how the mind works, and studying of human behavior. I trust that you found this information valuable. I can't wait to see how you create client loyalty for life.